Is Ninjago a Power Ranger knockoff?
Mastodon!
Pterodactyl!
Triceratops!
Saber-tooth tiger!
Tyrannosaurus!
Power Ranger!
Today, I want to take a closer look at this fairly rhetorical question. If the toys keep getting bigger, jumboer, and more Zord-like, then what exactly is the deal with the two actual Combiner mech models? This is the LEGO Ninjago Ninja Ultra Combo Mech, which retailed for £90, $90 and €100. It had 1,104 pieces and came with 7 minifigures. Since we aren't talking about the core MacLeods today, they aren't even going to get a moment in the spotlight here. The set counts the 4 Ninja as well as the Woobot as minifigures, each of the core variation, as this was a 2022 release, one of the 3 sets that came from the first core wave that I bought and actually thought was pretty good at the time. It has 4 separate Ninja vehicles that go into combining to make this Megazord knockoff, and while it's technically the same as the new 2025 one, well, you'll see the differences as we get into this. I think the diverging design philosophy is pretty evident in Power Rangers terms. This one is more like Dino Thunder to say Ninja Storm. Personally, I prefer this in terms of combiner design, 4 separate vehicles for play, only one of which feels underbaked, the core one. The Zane, the Kai and the J parts all have distinct shapes, and while it's obvious that for at least the Zane one that it's part of the combiner mech, the vehicle does stand on its own. Since the legs transform into this really neat looking Zane treadmill vehicle, which is honestly kind of cute all alone like this, I can't say that's entirely a problem. It actually reminds me of the Ninjago movie Zane Pyramid one. All those sharp triangles and whatnot alongside the treads, like a little snowplow. It's probably the 3rd strongest standalone vehicle in this set. 2 minifigures can technically fit in here, but there's only 1 cockpit. You can also technically take them apart to use as single car tread things, I suppose. Playability is through the roof in this set, honestly. Following along, we have a bit of a weaker build, and I mean that quite literally. This is by far the least impressive of the 4 builds, at least as it is supposed to be constructed, as it's meant to be taken apart to use as the arms. Looks a lot better in that configuration, but it's incredibly flimsy in comparison to the others due to this. I mean, it won't fall apart in your hands, but if you're looking for a stable experience for play and swoosh around like a child, then any of the other builds here, particularly the Zane one, is a much better choice. It doesn't connect at the back though, and 2 sides are only connected by Technic pins. It's good enough, because there's a silver lining to every cloud. You can pretend it is a ship by dragging the arms out to the sides like this, perhaps? Coming in after that one though is one that gives this such Thundersaurus Megazord vibes for me. It's the plane, also attributing the head of the combo mech itself. Just like how the Pterazord added the crest and helmet to that Power Rangers Megazord, this has a similar feature here. You detach the wings and place them elsewhere, like the Yellow Zord did, and then attach the main body to the back of the vehicle. On its own, however, it also stands up as a plane, with posability and swooshability that hides the head part perfectly well. Also, thanks to the incredible range of motion, you can also pretend it's a walker. Honestly, this is the most playable of the lot, and 100% swooshifyingly swooshable. Very cool. Thank you, LEGO. Then last but most certainly not least, we have the big chunk of this set skeleton, Kai's mech. This is honestly kind of neat all on its own, just sitting next to these other mechs from Ninjago, and it doesn't completely look out of place. My only real gripe with this is something that can't be really easily fixed, and that's how stiff it is. Because it's weight bearing in the combined model, it's not all that posable. The legs don't move very far, and they can only go back and front. The arms are a bit less excusable though, and their lack of comprehensive motion is a bit annoying. They use an axle joint to mimic an elbow for some reason, and it heavily reduces the range of motion. Bit strange that. The reason why the legs are so stiff is because of this knee feature. You can remove these clips here, and the bottom of the leg swings out. This could be used standalone to get decent poses, but its actual purpose is to make way for the combining of the rest of the vehicles. Just like Zane's little tread thing, Cole's Earth Driller Minis, Jay's Jet Flappy Bird thing, and Kai's mech, all combined, joined together, united as one, brought for one purpose, merged into a single entity. One thing I want to talk about immediately is leg suspension. This model has some really decent leg stability and suspension. It doesn't look like it, like at all, but considering how blocky and straight the legs are, yet the feet have some swivel action down here, side to side. It gets locked in when it's in tread vehicle mode, but makes it way easier to stand up than you think. Just look at me go. It took me a few tries of being intentionally on the rough side for the hinge to get pushed down a racket and unbalance it. It's also really tall, way taller than the newer one, and that counts for something in this case, since the idea here is to create the most titanic and imposing thing from as many moving parts as possible. I think it really enhances the effect when the combo model is both large and uses all the bits and pieces. This would be very easy to half-heartedly pull off with sub-assemblies and the like, but they didn't on either model, to be fair. But I think it's more potent on this one since each of the vehicles feels like their own separate and alone thing that would exist otherwise. Good stuff. Then just this year we got another one. This is the 2025 Zane's Combiner Mech, and comparatively, well, just look at them, why don't you? Straight off the bat, can't say I'm quite as impressed, at least when it comes to the main bits. The chunkiest two and most important segments of this model are probably the weakest parts in terms of design, unfortunately. It just feels a little underwhelming when you look at it outside of its Megazord configuration. The two vehicles are fine, but they're also kind of completely irrelevant. The Dino Thunder Megazord at least had the 3 distinct designs for the Zords. This jumbo car here has nothing on a T-Rex, and while I like this jet plane a little more, it's no Triceratops. In this sense, I guess Zane would be the pterodactyl. The only one that seems to remember that they're in like a Megazord-esque combo mech is Ryu, who acts as like the wings of the Dragozord from that series, or he's just slumping on the back for a ride. That's possible too. While I appreciate the clever way certain pieces attach and detach to the combined model, there's a lot of weird stuff on these two that just doesn't make much sense. It's almost like they looked at a complete version for the 2022 one, but didn't bother to notice where it detached into each vehicle. Like, I get that Pixel doesn't really seem to have a unified color scheme, but what is up with the red, blues, and blacks on these things? For the 4 OG Ninja? But only 2 feature in the set. Do you see what I mean? It drags the quality of these builds down. Now, I've not seen Dragons Rising. I don't know how this is applied to show canon, and compared to the 2022 one, at least it's something that is supposed to make sense in universe. So maybe I'm just missing some vital information, and if I had the context I would love it way more. But from my perspective, as someone with just the toy in person and nothing else, not a fan. The leg assembly is by all right stronger and sturdier than the last one, that much cannot be denied, but by the same token it also makes it blocky and unyielding, and that's saying something compared to the last one. This thing won't fall over, ever, but at the same time it also won't be getting into any action poses beyond this one, from legs down anyway. Back to the car for a minute, and while I can appreciate the sturdiness, it feels almost like they forgot the assignment. Sure, it's built to be able to have the feet pushed down into position, and have the legs split apart while creating a front that appears to be an actual truck. The split second you look away from it, or any other angle really, this impression falls away, and it's kind of impossible to stop, but when combined with the smorgasbord of colours that clash together with little rhyme and reason, Now, I do prefer having an oversized Ninjago jumbo car that can turn into the bottom half of a giant mech, but it's still a giant oversized Ninjago jumbo car on its own. No personality whatsoever. One thing I'm a lot less negative about, however, is the jet plane build. While it shares the same coloration issues as the other big build, it's actually fairly stylishly done on this one. The black used on the jet thrusters and thus also forearms blends in much more nicely with the heavily gold coloured backside and contrasts nicely with the white. The blue and reds are also not consigned to the big chunky blocked out sections of the model and thus work to accentuate each other rather than assault your eyeballs with too much of one or the other. And the main engine and cockpit parts just tie the whole thing off neatly. You can also detach and swap out the sides. The cockpit is a bit too thick to fit in the other end of the model though. Then swivel the thrusters around since these are the shoulders on the combined model. Overall, a lot more pleasant to look at, though still a bit too patchwork for me to say it really matches the way that the 2022 one's vehicles were designed. Adult Ryu is next, although he's not really part of the Megazord mechanically. He's just kind of there on the back, and while it adds to the silhouette of the combined mech, he's not really needed. In a good way though. This is by far the best singular build of the set because he's a brick-built character that isn't a robot. It also means that he's thus the best standalone item. I don't really have much to say here. This is just an upscaled version of the Team Rio from last year. They look neat together. On the other hand, we have, I don't know what to call him, Big Zane. As the supposed owner of this combined mech, he's kind of important to its functionality, as he's also the sole pilot, and also the only driver that was kept in mind when constructing this. That being said, two of the other figures included actually have reasonable claim to be able to be capable of piloting this as well. Sora through the tech elemental powers, and Pexel through the exact same method that was used to allow Zane to get this buff. Speaking of that, this is really close to Ryu's build quality, and I think it's fair if you personally would judge him as superior of the two. I think Ryu's a bit better because the limbs on this brick-built Zane are still a little bit weird. The arms are fine, the hinge pieces and the ball joints fairly unobtrusive, but the sheer fact that it's not double ball joints automatically puts it down a bit for me. Combining them all together like this grants you the combiner mech, an imposing and much better put together item than the sum of its parts. Now, it's important to state that despite how negative I was about half the sum of this, I actually really do like the way it all comes together. It's such a contrast, and I'm pretty sure it was designed like this first and then turned into the separate bits. From a display perspective, I'll admit this one looks slightly more complete than the other one. Can't say I outright prefer it, but at least it rivals that one, which is really unique and eye-catching design when all put together. Due to that and just how complete it does seem when everything is attached, I can't really say anything negative about the overall shaping or displayability of this Megazord. That being said, the same cannot be said for its playability. Alright, look, this thing is sturdy, it's slightly smaller and thus easy to play with, and it's got an imposing look to it. But one thing I noticed when taking the footage for this segment was that there isn't really a great place to grab it from. I kept trying to pick it up from the waist, but then Ryu's legs would get in the way, or I grab it with the legs, which would work, but it felt weird. Then with the arms, and these leave me with mixed feelings. I like the connection method, the small ball joints can allow for a bit of modularity, but there's a big issue here. While the shoulders can move on the ratchet joints, the elbows can't. That means that those arms can basically only swing back and forth. You can get a few alright poses with this, but it so severely limits that both posing and play is not funny. Alright, at the end of the day, what do I think of them fitted together directly? Instantly we can see the height difference. 2022 is stouter, more bulky, it loses a lot of height, feels solid and sturdy, but it wasn't as though the 2022 one was falling apart. In this regard, it's obviously personal preference. I think the taller height adds more grandeur to the combined model and is thus especially apparent when you compare the compositions of each. Starting with these four and ending up with this, it's way more impactful than the 2025 versions. Two blobs, let's be real. So what this all comes down to in the end is how they compare as Megazord-esque mechs, and as the Zord parts alone. And in this regard, 2022, way better than 2025, sorry. One more thing I think that's important to touch on is their storability. It all comes down to what you think of the two big multicolored vehicles outside of mech conflict mode. I don't like them separated, I'd sooner scrap them for parts and display them like this, but that does change when they come together as a mech. Also in this sense, maybe the smaller size of this one works to its benefit. I know that the reason I ended up storing the 2022 one as their vehicles is because it's just how Titanic it is altogether, and not really having the room for that. I mean, you don't exactly think you'll want to relegate the adult Ryu to this thing's back forever, right? Or the giant Zane. What a waste that'd be. In summary, I think the 2025 one is at least on the same level as 2022, and the combined mech might even be better. But it's by far the worst Megazord of the two, and that's what this video is all about. Its individual Zords are 50% boring filler, and out of the other half, only one part is actually mechanically linked at all. Ryu just glomping on the back is giving me pirate docking vibes from One Piece. 2022 is eking out a victory in general from me. But at the end of the day, these two models are both pretty good. So good in fact, that I want to see if the old saying is right. Can you have too much of a good thing? Let's find out by smooshing them together. I don't think this is going to be easy, but there is some mild crossover with the elements here, maybe. Ta-da! Yeah, the arms can be swapped out for the drills, and that's about it. I guess you can try and do what I did with the J-plane as well. I actually didn't expect to get that far at all in truth. It looks goofy otherwise, but just having the option to detach and swap out the limbs is kind of cool. That works in reverse as well. Gives me real Power Ranger vibes, so in that respect, I guess they're both not helping Ninjago beat the allegations, huh?